Welcome to Community Talk, a public affairs presentation of the MSA United Way and Super Talk 1270. Now your host, Jenna Gullo.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to United Way's Community Talk on Super Talk 1270. I am not Jenna Gullo right now. Amber Jensen from United Way, the operations manager, and Jenna will be joining us in a few. We have an exciting program coming up today. We have Michaela Jablonski-Johnner from the Legal Services of North Dakota. She is a staff attorney there. And later in the show, we will be visiting with Emily Yanish, who is a licensed professional counselor at a United Way agency called YouthWorks. And just an update on our food drive that we had a couple weeks ago. We raised over 50,000 pounds of food. And let me tell you, our United Way office is still overflowing with food. And so we will be finishing up the backpack program in the schools in a couple of weeks. So luckily we have all that extra food to go to those families and kids that are in need. We are at 527 backpacks right now, which is just amazing to see how many people that are giving back to our community in that need. So again, thank you to everyone that helped out with the food drive. That was over 50,000 pounds of food that we're able to help the kids in need in our community. Another United Way update, our Day of Caring is fastly approaching, so please mark your calendars. August 12th of this year, we will be kicking it off at Shiloh Christian School. And applications, if you see a neighbor in need or an agency that could use some help in our community, please encourage them to apply. Applications are due this Friday, May 22nd. And if you just need somebody to help clean your office, pick up an elderly's home, we'd really appreciate it. Our goal this year is to have 1,000 volunteers. And maybe we need to get on over to Legal Services and do a Day of Caring project over there. Again, like I said, we have Michaela, the staff attorney at Legal Services of North Dakota, with us today. Thank you for joining us, Michaela.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So can you tell us a little bit about Legal Services of North Dakota?
Sure. Legal Services of North Dakota is a nonprofit organization in our community. We serve low-income, elderly, and possibly other areas throughout our community and throughout our state. Legal Services is a statewide program, so we serve clients throughout our state with legal problems.
Perfect. And a portion of, or a piece of what Legal Services does is also the South Central Juvenile Drug Court. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. As a nonprofit, we are always looking for ways to get some extra money, and so we sign up to do different innovative projects throughout the state, and we contract those out. So one of our contracts is with the South Central Juvenile Drug Court here in Bismarck. The Juvenile Drug Court program is a program set up to help juveniles in the community overcome problems with alcohol and drugs. And typically they're under a court order once they come to the Juvenile Drug Court program.
Excellent. That is something that's much needed. I used to work in alcohol and drug prevention in my previous job before joining United Way. And speaking of United Way, we have our executive director that just walked in the door. She's been at the State Homeless Coalition meeting all day today. And so thank you, Jenna, for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here. And Michaela, thank you for being here as well. And thank you for all of your great work at Legal Services. You know, I have to give a special tribute to Jim Fitzsimmons, your executive director that recently and suddenly passed away. Jim, I get chills even talking about it and thinking about it because I can't believe that he's still not here with us. And yet I think of all of his great work over his decades of working at Legal Services and how he very much is still with us.
Right. Yeah, it's been about 6 weeks now since his passing, and unfortunately, it really, touched everyone at Legal Services in a different way, and it's still hard for us to believe that he's not there. There's days that I want to go and speak with him about issues, and he's not there. But he was a great mentor, and I, give my career to him teaching me throughout the years. So.
Isn't that wonderful? And you almost wish people realize the legacy that they've left before they pass.
Exactly.
And so a big thank you to everyone at Legal Services for keeping his memory alive and for all of the work that you do, because he's very much with us every day. And he was such a big part of our United Way as well. Michaela, I want to learn more about the South Central Juvenile Drug Court, about your services with our youth, and we'll be talking later with someone from YouthWorks. Love YouthWorks. So we will be going to a commercial break, and so we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Great.
Right now it's 45.
Sean Hannity, weekdays at 2, only on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. I am Jenna Gullo, the Executive Director of the Missouri Slope Area-Wide United Way, and co-hosting with me today, Ms. Amber Jensen, Operations Director.
Good morning, everyone.
If you would like to join our conversation, you can go on to Facebook, go to facebook.com/MSAUA, or tweet us at MSA United Way. Or if you have any ideas out there, any programs or people you want to highlight, special needs in our community, like us on Facebook and throw some comments down. Give us a call. Our office number is 701-255-3601. We have with us today Michaela Jablonski-Johnner. She is a staff attorney at Legal Services of North Dakota. Michaela, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So give our listeners, people just tuning in, taking an early lunch, give us a brief overview of what Legal Services of North Dakota provides.
Sure. Legal Services of North Dakota is a nonprofit organization. It is a statewide program. We provide legal representation to clients who are low income, elderly, and possibly other categories as well, depending on what grants and money that we can get from throughout the state.
And we talked in the last segment a little bit about the South Central Juvenile Drug Court. Can you let us know? We just found out that's state funded. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. The Juvenile Drug Court program is a state-run program. It is statewide. We have a juvenile drug court in Bismarck, Minot, Devils Lake, Grand Forks, Fargo. And our newest one is in the Jamestown Valley City area. We actually have combined the two courts, and they appear through technology, through our IVAN system, so that one judge can be in Jamestown, and then there are participants down in Valley City as well. So technology is also playing a big role in how we are accessing the juveniles throughout our state and able to access the rural communities.
Who all is on your team when you talk about this drug court system?
Sure. The team is comprised of several people throughout the community, so we can watch basically all aspects of the juvenile's life. These juveniles are struggling with drug and alcohol issues and possibly familial issues, school issues. So we want to have eyes and ears on them at all times. So our team is the judicial referee or the judge, the probation officer, drug court coordinator, treatment providers, and in Bismarck here we use treatment providers from both West Central Human Services and Hartview, police youth bureau officer, a school resource officer, a school teacher, and then the prosecutor, and then the defense counsel, which is myself.
Wow, so that takes a lot of people to make this program run. And so what is your role on the team?
Sure, I'm the defense counsel, as I stated, and I provide defense services for the juveniles. I represent the juveniles throughout the drug court program. I make sure that their rights are being protected and they're not being treated unfairly. I always give my speech to the juveniles as they come in that I am not there to say what they're doing is right. I will not agree with decisions that I think are poor decisions, but I am there to make sure that their rights are protected.
What do you do when you know a juvenile is making a poor decision for his future or her future?
Unfortunately, I don't have as much contact with the juveniles on a daily basis or even weekly basis as does the probation officer or the tracker. I think I forgot to mention the tracker earlier in my list of people that are on the team, but the tracker as well. And our coordinator, they have a lot more contact with the juveniles, so they're able to sit down and talk with them on a weekly basis and talk about those poor decisions, try to steer them in the right in the right direction, I should say. and also give them alternatives. That's the thing that we see the most with the juveniles, is that they kind of get stuck within their group of friends, and they don't know how to make new friends. They don't know how to branch out from that, and that is the struggle that we find ourselves in, because they don't have those alternative activities, sober activities that they know how to participate in, or that they have friends that will do them with them.
And I imagine the family or the environment in which they're living in contributes greatly to the choices that they're making.
Oh, definitely. We see juveniles come from all walks of life. They may come from a low-income family, or they may come from a well-to-do family. And when we look at the numbers, I can't say that there's a big distinction between that. However, even in a well-to-do family, they may have some internal issues that they need some help with. And not only are we providing juveniles with an opportunity to get clean and sober, but we're offering families an opportunity to try and resolve some of those issues and try and work through those, so that when they're done with our program, we've kind of helped out in the school area, the family area, and the drug and alcohol area.
Yeah, walk us through those areas. And so what would a participant, what is required of that participant once they maybe get court ordered to be a part of this drug court?
Yes, the program is very structured. We do that on purpose. We do that intentionally so that they don't have a lot of free time. We do have the juvenile participate in, like I said, weekly meetings with a probation officer. They're usually attending treatment one time a week, sometimes 2 times a week, depending on what level of services they need. They attend court once a week, so we do that Thursdays at 4 o'clock. We have our drug courts sessions. They also have to do community service hours. We require them to either be in school or have a job. And then there may be some additional counseling or therapy, and that might be family or individual, depending on, again, the needs of the family and the individual.
What are some of the typical crimes that you're dealing with here?
Most of the time we see the misdemeanor offenses, but they're repetitive. I think I stated earlier in the program that the juveniles coming into juvenile drug court are under a current court order. They have to be under a current court order. And this is not their first time that they've been in trouble. Typically, they've been around the block, so to speak, and they are on probation, but probation's just not enough. So they need a more intense program. So by the time they come to us, we see multiple charges. They might be minor in possession, minor in consumption, drug paraphernalia, ingestion of a controlled substance, things of that nature. But like I said, it's repetitive. They could also just be on probation for one or two or more of those crimes, and they are continuously using. So they aren't charged with a new crime at that time, but they just are not following the rules of their probation.
So do you see clients that start the program, maybe end, and then are they able to get in the program later on if they commit another crime later on?
Yeah, the big incentive for our program, for the juveniles actually coming into our program, is if they come into our program and successfully complete, we call that graduation. If they graduate from our program, they are able to have the charges that brought them into the program dismissed. If they stay clean and sober for 2 years after graduation and not get into any further trouble, they actually have their whole juvenile court record washed away. And some people say, well, isn't that the point of being a juvenile, is when you turn 18, all of that's gone. Well, we all know that's not always the case, because we do have to report those juvenile charges in some instances. For example, going to law school, going into the Army, Navy, those professions may require you to report anything on your juvenile record. So for some of these kids that really have turned their lives around and want to go further in their life, having their whole juvenile record dismissed and cleared is actually very beneficial for them.
What is your success rate?
We sit at about 50%. When people look at that number, they might think, well, I don't know if that's good or not. But I think it's pretty great. It's an opportunity for the juvenile to stay in their home and still be able to work on their issues. And like I said, it's not just working on their issues, but working on issues within the family as well. So that's an opportunity that we've given that juvenile and that family that may not have been available to them had this program not been around.
So you said there's a 50% success rate. What makes that half different than the other half? What factors are contributing to their success?
We look at those numbers and those stats all the time. I can't tell you that there's one thing that stands out. We actually just ran some numbers. Our probation officer just ran some numbers for us a couple weeks ago. And we looked at age, and we looked at some other factors that might play into it. And the one thing we did see is that the older participants do seem to have a more success, or a higher success rate, I should say, in looking at the younger ones. And I don't know if that's a maturity thing. We always talk about the adolescent's brain, how that's not quite developed until older. So that might be something that contributes to it. But really, when you look at the numbers, there's nothing that distinguishes one from the other.
So I'm sure you've calculated this, but it couldn't be that because they're older, you're no longer tracking them for 2 years after, they're 18? Or is that tracking still in place if they commit a crime when they're 17 and then they're tracked until they're 19?
Right. We don't necessarily track them, but we do follow up with them to see if they have committed that crime or not. And the ones that have not committed the crimes, they contact us. At that 2-year mark, they contact us. They want their juvenile records dismissed and wiped clear. So, it's kind of nice to get that phone call and think, oh, wow, they really did do something. Or when we see them in the paper graduating from college, it's great to see those things. So
we were talking on break about a success story and what that looks like for you. Can you share that with our listeners?
Sure, just briefly. I say, we have lots of success stories throughout our program, so I can't really pinpoint one. But the biggest success story is when a juvenile comes to us and their life is falling apart. It's the areas of school, family. We've had kids that have been suicidal, that have a lot of mental health issues going on, and then they also are dealing with this drug and alcohol. They might even have, a close member in their family that has passed away, possibly a father or mother figure. And so, they're dealing with a lot of things, and as juvenile, that's a lot to take on. So if we can get them through our program successfully and we're able to get them the services that they need, and like I said, not just for the individual, but the family as well, I think that's the biggest success story that we can see.
So before we leave, quickly, if somebody wants to know more information, how do they get in contact with you?
They can contact juvenile court here in the South Central District. They would contact Tasha Fetting, and she is our juvenile drug court coordinator, and her number would be 222-6709.
Michaela Jablowski-Johnner from Legal Services in North Dakota, thank you for all of your great work, for your explanations of your services. And we will be talking with Emily Yanish from YouthWorks, talking about how we can prevent some of these issues occurring with our youth. Come back in just a few minutes.
Thank you.
Right now it's 45.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. A special thank you to Jim Walsh. Do you like that, Jim? And that's my non-professional DJ voice there. I am Jenna Gullo, the executive director of the Missouri Slope Area-Wide United Way. And we really do appreciate Town Square Media and Super Talk 1270 for this donated airtime. Co-hosting United Way's Community Talk with me today is Ms. Amber Jensen, the operations manager for United Way.
Good morning, everyone.
We were talking with Michaela Jablowski. Gosh, I messed that second name up. Jablonski. Okay. I'm a little Polish too, so I should be able to get that one. But Michaela Jablonski-Johnner, about her work as an attorney with legal services. And I can't say enough how I really respect attorneys that give of their time to those in need in our community. So whether it's pro bono work or working through legal services, it's really amazing. People who have that kind of heart, and we appreciate it. So anyone listening out there, our agencies, our clients that we serve in our community really need you. So if you can give of your expertise, call our United Way. We are at 255-3601.
Yeah, and she just had, like you said, so much heart, and the reason why she does the program is just because it's benefiting so many kids and helping them start a new life and be able to be as successful as everyone else. And so it's just a really great program that they do there at Legal Services.
It really is. And talk about heart. I can just about identify every single person at the following agency, YouthWorks, that we're going to be discussing as having tremendously big hearts. I was fortunate enough to be able to sit next to Mark Heiner at the statewide Homeless Coalition meeting that I just came from, taking a little break there to do our radio show and talk about heart and leadership and servant leadership. Mark is the epitome of all of that. He recently served as the president of the statewide Homeless Coalition and really helped to move them ahead of the game on a number of different levels. And in studio with us today is Emily Onish. Emily is a program manager for YouthWorks. You do short-term and assessment center for the short-term and assessment center and diversion programs. Emily, thanks for being here.
Good, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
You know, Emily, I really like you too, because I've had the pleasure of being able to hear you do presentations to our United Way businesses that do employee campaigns, and the stories you have of the kids that you serve and the lives that you changed are so moving. I wish everyone in our community knew more about YouthWorks.
Yeah, we work hard and we work with a lot of different families, and we like to think that we are able to make a difference in the lives of kids, and like you said earlier, much sooner than some of the very, very serious issues that kids might be facing when they're in drug court or sort of further down the line. But we're always happy to get our name out there and let people know what it is we do.
Okay, Emily, so tell our listeners who may not have heard of YouthWorks what YouthWorks does.
Mm-hmm. YouthWorks has a number of programs to reach at-risk youth and homeless young adults in our community. And we offer just a variety of supportive services for young people and their families who might be struggling with any number of things. And so we do have diversion programs, which are programs for kids at the early stages of involvement with law enforcement. And we offer counseling, mentoring, after-school support, those kind of things to help kind of stabilize those young people and get families into a better place. We also have a short-term shelter, like Jenna mentioned, and that is an option for kids who might be having more significant difficulties and for any number of reasons might need to be taking a break from home while people assess what might be going on and help both the young people and families develop a plan for how things can get back on track.
What's really nice is that a lot of your work really does go into the preventative nature of this business. And I do foster care. So many of my kids that I've had come and go through my home have flourished because of the services that they provide at YouthWorks. So many things that they're going to be more apt to talk to you about and to share with, and than they would a parent or even a foster parent sometimes. It's great, the connection and the relationships that you build at YouthWorks.
Mm-hmm. We always try and connect with kids and really focus on strengths. We really try and look for what kind of positive attributes those kids have, those families have. Even in the most difficult situations, we can find something that's positive to build upon and then help support some of those areas that are facing a few more challenges.
And so what is the age range of these kids that can be helped at YouthWorks? Is it go all the way to 21, or where is that?
Yep, our different programs do have different age sort of qualifications, and so any of the diversion programs, the counseling, the mentoring, our short-term shelter works with anybody who's a minor. And so most frequently we're working with adolescents, so 13 through 17. But on occasion, if there's a younger child that would need our services, that happens occasionally. Our homeless young adult program does serve kids who are young adults, so they're in the 18 to 21 range.
Earlier when we were talking with Michaela about the juvenile drug court, how does YouthWorks and that program work together, if they do at all?
Yep. Most of the kids we serve at YouthWorks are a little earlier on in the juvenile court process, and it's really because of that prevention focus. And so they'll take a look at either the nature of the charges or the situation that prompted law enforcement contact. And if they determine that there are issues such as parent-child conflict, unruly behaviors, just not following rules and guidelines. If it's sort of that kind of thing, they really want to address that behavior with services rather than with probation. And so we see those kids and meet with them individually. Michaela mentioned that most of the kids she's working with really have much more significant challenges. It's not just the legal behavior. It's, she mentioned grief and loss. It may be mental health challenges. There might be substance abuse in the family. There might be any number of things going on. And so we really meet those kids on an individual basis, learn what's happening in their family, and try and put together some services and a plan that will address those things specifically. So the program looks different for each child who's with us, but that's because each child who's with us has a different story and a different background.
We are talking with Emily Yonish, a licensed professional counselor at YouthWorks. Emily, talk to us about your Native American youth that enter YouthWorks, and there's so many preventative problems that specifically targets that population.
Yeah, we have a program called the Youth Cultural Achievement Program, and that's a program funded by the North Dakota Supreme Court, and it's intended to address the overrepresentation of our Native American youth across the juvenile justice spectrum, from arrest rate to probation rate. Formal probations and detentions are higher amongst our Native American population. And so our program is very similar. It's meeting those kids and those families one-on-one, identifying what those needs are, and really targeting those needs on an individual basis. We also have an after-school program for Native American youth called New Directions, and that really targets the academic assistance and really supporting them around attending school, passing their classes, meeting their goals, so that they're able to graduate high school and move forward.
And so with either of those programs, the Youth Cultural Achievement or the New Directions, what are the families' involvements in either of those programs?
Yeah, we welcome and encourage as much family participation as possible. Many of our families, once we get to know them, see us as a support. And so we have a food pantry. They can come to us if there's a need for even just those basic needs. And we find that the families, once they get comfortable, once they know who we are and what we're about, that there's a pretty high level of participation. We do family counseling. We do quite a bit of family work in supporting those kids.
Are there income level requirements when you look and assess the family to be able to receive services from YouthWorks?
There's not. We're not a fee-based agency. We do most of our work with both federal and local grants, and so there's no income basis, and certainly those low-income families are who we serve for the most part. If there is a family that has more resources available, a lot of times we'll provide referrals to more mainstream services, case management, kind of follow up and make sure those services are doing what they need to do. But we can provide those services at YouthWorks for any families not available.
I was kind of wondering that same thing. So if I had a child and maybe we just can't come to an agreement, we can't, decide on what the rules are and how we're going to go about following them, can that family then come to YouthWorks when they're just having problems, maybe just talking it out?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Parents can contact us and set up services at any point. And we do even have a 24-hour crisis line. So if there are significant struggles at a time where businesses aren't open, they can still reach YouthWorks.
And what is that crisis line number?
Yep, they can call us at any time at 255-6909. And if it is after business hours, you'll hear a voice message that asks you to press 1 to be connected with our crisis worker. If it's during business hours, they'll reach a receptionist and they'll connect you with our on-call worker.
Emily, I'm really wondering, summer is approaching. What can parents be doing to make sure their kids are staying out of trouble?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing is just to clearly communicate your expectations and do it sooner rather than later. So summer is rapidly approaching. Do you have expectations for how your child is spending their time? What is their supervision? What do you have about, what do you expect about either a job or being productive during the summer hours? And communicate those clearly and then follow through on those expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a 9 and a 10-year-old coming to me next week doing respite. And so thank the good Lord they have the YMCA to spend their days at while I'm at work. I want to hear more about your summertime programs and also some of your particular programs that are going to be of interest to our listeners. You are listening to United Way's Community Talk. We will be back shortly.
Right now it's 48.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. I am Jenna Gullo, the Executive Director for the Missouri Slope Area-Wide United Way. We are always looking for volunteers. If you have a free hour a week, some expertise and skills in certain areas that you want to donate, let us know or go online to volunteerbizman.com. That's volunteer, BISMAN.com. We have a lot of our United Way agencies who have posted on there different needs. They might be short-term, one-time needs, or they might be long-term. We are always looking for people to help answer our phones, open the mail, sort our food donations for our United Way backpack program. We even need youth or adults to help rake our yard and get our porch looking all ready and clean for springtime. Because Lord knows, with only 5 people working, actually employed at our United Way office, we can't be spending the resources on things like that, and we do volunteer a lot of our time on the weekends. Speaking of a good volunteer for us and an employee, Ms. Amber Jensen is my co-host today. She is the operations manager, and I just want to say, Amber, thank you for all of the additional unpaid hours that you put into our community.
You are very, very welcome. And that's when I think that's what the fun part is about United Way, is getting to volunteer with the other fellow volunteers that come to our office. The Women's Leadership Circle comes to mind, and they're just an excellent group to get to volunteer with. And so maybe we'll mention later or right now that they have a community baby shower coming up. So if you have any items that you would like to donate, Emily with us here at YouthWorks is going to be one of the recipients of some of these baby items. So June 8th through the 19th, the Women's Leadership Circle will be collecting some baby items. And so feel free to drop them by the United Way office and also give of your time June 23rd.
So we are speaking with Emily Yanish from YouthWorks. And Emily, you talked about one of your programs that serves youth that are 18 or young adults, 18 to 21 years of age. Can you tell our listeners more about what services you provide and what success you have seen from that program?
Sure. Yep. We actually have 2 federally funded programs, Transitional Living Program and our Parenting Pathways Program, which is going to be the recipient of those baby items. Both programs work with young adults who find themselves homeless. The Parenting Pathways, young people also find themselves either pregnant or parenting. And so that adds an additional challenge to be negotiated for those young people. But we actually have several housing units available throughout the community, as well as supportive services at YouthWorks and case management to assist those young people in finding stable employment, completing their education, addressing any substance abuse issues or mental health issues, really working to give them the stability and the skills that they'll need to transition to independence and be able to live on their own without the supports eventually.
People who are listening who maybe aren't as close to the issues as you and I may be in the work that we do every day might not realize what supportive services really means, nor will they realize that many funding programs like HUD, a federally funded, effort, they won't prioritize supportive services. And so what that means is they might help with some rental subsidies, but then agencies like YouthWorks has to rely on other funding sources to be able to provide the services that really help to keep that person in their home.
Exactly. We really want to help those young people develop the skills that they're going to need to be able to make it. And so we have an independent living coordinator, Rocky Metzger, and he works with kids both in a class format and one-on-one to do things like learn how to fill out a job application completely, develop a resume. What does it mean to sign a lease? And what are the legal kind of things that young people are going to need to know about that? How do you buy a car? What kind of maintenance do you need to know about basic maintenance on a car? All those kind of things that, lots of young people will learn from their parents or will learn in different ways growing up. And some young people just aren't as fortunate and need a helping hand in learning about those things.
Where do most of those referrals come from?
Most of those referrals will come from young people themselves. They've become pretty savvy in finding what needs to happen and to find their own assistance. Some referrals come from social services, so they become aware of a young person who is either living in an unsafe environment or living on the street or kind of bouncing around.
Or aging out of foster care.
Right, aging out of foster care. They're thankfully now there's the 18-plus program, and so some kids choose to stay in foster care, but a great many choose to try and make it on their own. And they just haven't developed some of the skills that they need to make it without that support.
So you mentioned some of the referrals come from the youth themselves. What would happen if these services weren't available? Is there any other agency in the community that offers anything like this?
Not quite to the degree that we do. There's certainly the rental assistance. There's those one-time emergency kind of funding streams for different resources. But the transitional living program, kids are able to stay in our apartments for up to 21 months. So it's really intended to get young people stabilized and on their feet where they can make it on their own. And nothing like that is available elsewhere to my knowledge.
We are talking with Emily Yanish, a licensed professional counselor at YouthWorks, which is one of our highest funded United Way agencies. So people out there, if you're wondering where some of the funds come from for these important supportive services, give to your United Way campaign. Or, Emily, where can people find you online?
Yeah, they can find us at www.youthworksnd.org. We have lots of information about our programming, upcoming events, our crisis contact information.
Oh, one thing I was going to, before we talk about some of your events that you have coming up, so you're the program manager for the Short-Term Care and Assessment Center. I've worked at United Way for almost 2 years now, and I still am amazed with how many programs YouthWorks accomplishes in a day. It's just amazing. So tell us a little bit about the program that you run, since I don't think we've mentioned that one yet.
Yep. The Short-Term Care and Assessment Center offers a safe and supervised place for young people to be when there are really significant struggles. Most of our young people come in through law enforcement. So there's been some sort of situation taking place that law enforcement has become involved. And it's been determined that returning kids right home after a significant event might not be the greatest idea or the most successful plan. And so they come to us. We're oftentimes in touch with the juvenile court and helping develop plans for these young people. But it's always our goal to look at what can we do to help support this young person? What can we do to help support this family so that kids can remain in their homes? It's our goal to meet with families and reunify as quickly as possible. What can we do to keep them in their schools successfully? What can we do to keep them in their community so that kids aren't going into foster care whenever that's something that can be avoided?
It's just, like I said, it's amazing how many programs that are out there. And talk to us about one event that we luckily get to help you with and get you prepared for is the We've Got You Covered event. And so what, outside of, working with families one-on-one, what are other opportunities like this event that you help kids with, get clothing, get ready for school? Tell us a little bit about that event.
Yeah, we're so excited. We've Got You Covered has really taken off, and we are so thankful for the United Way's Day of Caring, which absolutely makes the event possible because it's gotten to be such a large event and an exciting thing. We've Got You Covered is an event where we have a month-long clothing drive to have people drop off clothes that are fashionable and in good condition for young people for when kids may not be able to go back to school shopping. And so we set up sort of a huge lot of clothes and kind of a storefront in different spaces. I believe we'll be back at Bismarck High this August. And families can take their kids shopping for free. There's no charge whatsoever, and kids can come away with a new wardrobe to go back to school feeling good.
And YouthWorks is one of about 50 projects volunteers will be able to choose from when they participate in United Way's Day of Caring. That will take place August 12th. Emily mentioned we want to give a quick plug to your first yet annual charity golf tournament coming up.
First in Bismarck. It's annual because we did it in Fargo last year, and this year we're extending to Bismarck. We're very excited. We have the golf tournament coming up on Friday, August 28th. It will be at Prairie West Golf Course in Mandan, and we are looking for anybody who is interested in playing or in sponsoring a hole. We are just looking to put together that event. Last year was really a great time in Fargo, and so we're hoping to bring that to Bismarck and have people join in the fun.
Yeah, and what a great way to start being able to sponsor and give back to those programs that YouthWorks operates on a daily basis.
Yep, all of the locally raised dollars stay local and even help us in providing match money for our federal grants, so that oftentimes $1 of a local donation can be multiplied by 10 and turn into $10 that we can use to fund our programs and really provide those services to the youth right here in our community.
I hear Doug Herzog's voice when you say that. Good old Doug. He's since retired, but still in the field. God bless him.
10% match.
10%. Tell us, for people needing assistance or wanting to get help, you do have a 24-hour crisis line?
We do. Yep. We have on-call workers, licensed social workers, or counselors available 24 hours a day. And it's just a regular business number. So folks can reach us at 255-6909, and you'll want to press 1 after business hours, and that will connect you directly to one of our crisis workers who can just be a resource to talk through whatever's going on and hopefully point you in the right direction.
Emily Yanis, YouthWorks, that number again for crisis situations, 255-6909. You've been listening to United Way's Community Talk. Special thank you to Town Square Media. Call us or go online to msaunitedway.org.